All right. It is Kevin coming at you with Weeds Weekly Wrap. Once again, we are going to go through what happened this past week, what we think is going to happen this week, what our random thoughts are, and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. So let's just get right to it as usual. Because again, as I said last time, I'm trying to keep this under 10 minutes because I do get wordy. All right, this past week, from go on Monday, we saw rates increase. This past week was not favorable to us. It did not help us with the ISM Manufacturing Index number came out that was a little bit inflationary. And it just goes back to just cement the point that data is king. And it's not just the big ones, right? It's not just the jobs report or the CPI number, which we're going to talk about coming this week. It is all data sets. It is every day. And the other thing is, traders right now are taking a very conservative approach. They do not want to get burned. They're trying to figure out, just like we are and just like the general consumer is and our clients, what the hell is happening with the Fed? When are they going to start lowering rates and when can we anticipate that? So a lot of people are just being very conservative. The other thing that I saw this past week is, look, I remember the days when I was young and I used to play vinyl. Now vinyl is back in style. But the problem with vinyl was always you inevitably would get a scratch on your favorite record. Oh, it used to drive you crazy, right? Or you get a little nick in it, and that damn thing would just skip. It would repeat. It would be like boom, boom, like a broken record. Just you would hit it, and it would just spin. It'd be the same thing over and over until you threw it out. But that's exactly the same thing what the Fed sounds like right now. Since the beginning of Q1, they are lock in step with one another, and what their language is, how they're basically saying, hey, we're waiting on data, March is now on the table, is off the table for a rate cut, and they're just going through the same semantics. So as much as the Fed is speaking these days, and different people are speaking at different times in different parts of the week, it seems to be all the same rhetoric. And once again, it just goes back to our point that data is king, and that's what's going to drive the markets. Which brings us into this week. And get ready, right? Because we have coming in hot CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And again, it is probably the second largest number that traders look at with regards to how treasuries are going to move. The biggest one being the jobs report right now, but this is a huge number with regards to inflation, and it's coming out Tuesday. So anticipate that Monday is just going to be a boring ass day with regards to what rates are going to do, and Tuesday is going to set the stage. And really what it has the ability to do, depending on that number, is to create a new floor or a ceiling. We seem to be hovering in between 4 and 4.2% on that 10-year Treasury note. And I think that this report, depending on where it comes in, is going to drive that one way or the other. But here's the thing. We only have 3 incomes, right? Or outcomes. Either it blows away the number, inflation's still persistent, and we have a problem. That is going to push the ceiling higher. I think we could get up to 4.3%, if not maybe 4.4, but I think that's a real push. On the flip side of that, if the number comes in way lower than anticipated, I think we go below that 4% floor. I think we could get down to 3.9, 3.8. We already saw that when New York Community Bank Corp was under stress, about a week and a half ago? We've already tested those waters, so I think we can get back down relatively easy. But the third outcome is it's right in line. And as we've already seen, traders love that, right? It is something coming in line is the expectation that, okay, the Fed's job, it's working. The rate increases are working. And in turn, what that's going to do, it's going to create an atmosphere where the Fed is going to feel more comfortable by lowering that Fed funds rate now around summertime like they anticipated. So that is the big number from CPI. The other thing that's coming out this week is just core retail sales. And let's go back to it. We talked about it a ton in Q4 of last year. The resiliency of the consumer. No one really anticipated in 2023, but I think as we've discussed here, I anticipate that to start to tail off. You have, let me look at it right here. You have consumer debt has swelled to 17.5 trillion. It has surged more than 50% in 2023. That is a massive number. At some point, the consumer inflation, the increase in consumer goods and services, it's just going to take its toll. And I think we're going to start to see that. That's why I said the data set of Q1 as a cumulative is going to be exactly what the Fed is looking for to drive what it's going to do for the remainder of 2024. I think this first quarter is extremely critical. All right, random thoughts. You know, there's nothing better than really the wind being at your back. And let's take Fannie Mae's most recent HPSI. It's the Home Purchase Sentiment Index. It increased 3.5 points in January to 70.7, which is the highest level since March of 2022, which is just about 2 years ago, which is awesome, right? You know, you look at it last year, we in the real estate industry, whether you were as an agent, a broker, or you were on the mortgage side, we were fighting headwind. It seems as 2024, we have more of a tailwind. We have the wind at our back. Things are starting to move in our favor. And that report is awesome. The Purchase Sentiment Index. It just means that people are on the sidelines. They would love to get back into the game. However, like we discussed, I think 2024 is not going to be our banner year. It's going to come in the subsequent years after this year. I think this year is going to be a lot of just getting back into balance. So that's what I anticipate. I don't expect the big peaks and valleys like we saw in 2023, rates going up to 8% or so on and so forth. I see this kind of steady state. I see the market trying to digest. Jobs starting to tail off a little bit, the Fed feeling that they're under control, so on and so forth. And then you have the election. I just think a lot of status quo this year. I think it's going to be like we're riding on a gravel road, right? So it's going to be shaky at times, but it's just going to be a rolling pasture. You're not going to have like a roller coaster ride. That's what I really think is going to be going on. And what that means is I think you're going to see a lot of tire kickers this year. You know, I hate to say it. I know that I talk to a lot of agents on the weekly, on the daily. We're all experiencing a lot more activity. However, interest rates are just not there yet for a lot of people to pull the trigger. People that have low interest rates are just not ready to pull the trigger when you're talking mid 6s to 7%. Again, we get below that magic number of 6%, I think it's going to drive a lot more of actual activity. But I think this is going to be the year of the tire kicker. We're going to spin our wheels a lot. We're going to add people to our database. We're going to feel really good about the market. But at the end of the day, we're going to look at Q1, Q2, Q3 results. And I think it's going to be a lot of what we experienced in 2023. But that's not a bad thing because it's setting up the great years of 2025 and 2026. So now bring me up to my last point. And the last point, the elephant in the room, in my opinion, and I've been reading a lot about it, is the commercial industry. You know, we as residential real estate agents, or those who sit on the residential side, we often don't think about the commercial lending side. And we often like to just stay in our box, right? But it's the commercial side which is really beginning to show stress. Given the high interest rates, you have a lot of debt that a lot of these banks are holding, and it's estimated that we're talking about $1.5 trillion that need to come off the books, reset, be restructured, and 70% of that debt is held by small banks. That's a real problem. And I call it the elephant in the room because obviously the Fed has other means in which to counter and inject liquidity into the commercial system. But one of the things that they can do, obviously, is reduce rates, right? Banks lend, and they're tightening lending right now because they're very adverse to risk. But one thing that the Fed can do is start to lower that Fed funds rate, because not only does it directly affect the residential side, but I think they are going to have their eyes more set on, okay, we don't mind kind of the nice balance of the residential sector right now. I think it's at a nice even hum. I don't really think that's a big focus for them. But this elephant in the room of the commercial side, 1.5 estimated trillion dollars that needs to come off the books this year and next, that's a major problem. I think that is going to be one of the triggers that pushes the Fed to act this summer. So we definitely want to make sure that we keep a very close eye on that, because none of these banks want to be Silicon Valley again, right? They need to figure out how to restructure this debt, get it off their books. What are they going to do? And they're going to be looking to the Fed for some guidance. So that's one of the things we definitely want to keep our eye on. All right, let's fingers crossed, right, for that CPI number this week. We definitely want to see something come in that's very positive. We want to keep these rates obviously in the mid sixes to lower sixes if we can, at least within the 6 to 7% range. And I think that gives us a nice little guide here until we get to the end of Q1. We get a little bit more jobs data next month. We see the CPI number again next month. That'll give us 2 months of data as we're into 2024. And I think it'll really set up what we can expect for the Q2. And then obviously Q3 is really going to be, I think, totally flat due to the election. All right, everybody, have a great week. I'm around. Coffee, you need a shout, you have a question for a client, whatever the case may be, do not ever hesitate to give me a call, and I'll look forward to speaking to y'all soon. Have a great week. Cheers.